Jimbo can't believe what's happening. It isn't the summer storm just about to release its energy outside his luxury bunker. It's the essentially realistic nature of what he knows is clearly a very unreal situation. I'm flying, he recognizes. I didn't even will it to happen. I'm dreaming, he thinks, or dreams he thinks. But this doesn't stop him enjoying the situation. He's literally flying, without wings, by force of will or cosmic flow alone. Way to go, Jimbo, he dreams loudly to himself as he rises high above the grounds of the mansion in his old jeans and dirty white t-shirt. It ain't the latest technology, but it works well enough. Small clouds billow past his face, but he's leaving them behind too. Details of the increasingly distant world are only just discernible as they drift past far below. The bleached skies stretch out around him, infinitely free and infinitely empty. Suddenly he comes up against a sheer granite mountain. It fills his horizons and stretches up to the stars. Now it's walling him in. He's being blocked. That's symbolic. It becomes apparent that this mega mountain has a tunnel through it, in the middle of one side. Jimbo enters it, flies towards the far light. Is this dying? But when he emerges, instead of the unspoilt Eden-like heaven that had been the setting of many of his recent dreams, stretching out before him are the decayed and charred remains of civilization, the ruins of the world, human and natural. Tar pits scattered over grey land. Black smoke rises, polluting once blue skies. Like the wastelands of World War I, where it's not churned with blue-tinted mud, the ground is black and scorched or crater-pitted. Craters speckle the landscape to the edge of Jimbo's vision, and bodies speckle the craters. Most of it is fields turned fiery or burnt out. Some of it is walls and other bits of building, none of the bits doing much building in their present state. The countryside is bombed out and poisoned in all directions. A river dwindles toil as it drains into the mud. Rotting carcasses of famished cattle line its desiccated banks. There are no living plants of any kind visible across the battlefield. What once were trees are now burnt stumps. Random fires spatter the apocalyptical scenery. This vision is the fulfillment of the environmental destruction through irrational over-industrialization, which Jimbo knows has exploited the world. He also knows that the whole world will soon look like this as a result of humanity's continuing so-called progress. He says to himself, I thought I was in control here. This is my world, my dream world, and it's a nightmare. There's no way I can let them get away with this desolation. It's my world they're playing with and destroying. That's not right. Now he's down among the remains of his world, as if he can't believe his eyes. But here's something stranger even than the desolation. Although the buildings are reduced to piles of stone or scatterings of ash, it's somehow still very familiar. Here and there are the dogged remains of homes, shops, offices, church spires, with only the memories of walls standing. This could be any modern town or city devastated by modern methods of destruction, if he didn't recognize some of the remains. The more he sees it, the more this landscape is reminiscent of home, except it looks like it's been through a war. But his mother would have texted him about that, and it isn't a war that's responsible for this mindless holocaust. Jimbo knows that as clearly as anything. That's why he's here now, in the arcade, open air as he finds himself, surrounded by the shops of the companies responsible for all this destruction. They're the end point and public face of the economic processes by which the human race has brainlessly stampeded to this Gehenna. Or perhaps he should say, by which the people have been led like Piper's children to their own self-destruction. These shops only sell and sell and sell for the system, draining ever more from the world. It'll sell everything until there's nothing left of the world he knew, or anything left of the world that's desirable or beautiful. There's only the used up, peeled carcass of a planet, across which a mania of industrialization has blazed long and wild, baking the world and leaving behind stinking ashes. The shops are intact. They're just as they normally are in the centre of town, well lit, gleaming, inviting. They're open as they would be in the middle of the day, but they're empty. The complete absence of people doesn't seem strange. The lighting seems a little artificial, that's all, like Jimbo's watching himself on a monitor on a film set in bad weather or something. Everything glints softly. Everything is slightly soft-focused. But he's alone in the midst of peak consumerism and its supporting desolation. Maybe this is my chance to make things right, he feels. How dare they spoil my dreams, my world? How dare they be so careless? If I could, I'd stop the world before it's too late. We must pay the price for the survival of human civilization. So what can I do? What can be my weapons for the reorganization? If everything must become ashes, perhaps a flamethrower would be an apt start. He shouts through some glass doors, "Hey, get out of there! Burning plastic is poisonous!" But he laughs as he torches the shoe shop with the flamethrower. Soon he's walking along the street, setting it all pyrotechnic. He knows it's an out-of-body experience because he feels no heat. Nothing. Yet, as the glass, mannequins and goods begin to melt around him, he imagines that he's in touch with the absolute truth. This is a calling, a spiritual yearning, he affirms to himself. Even as he looks at them, the guilty shops, offices and factories are cleansed with the fire of his gaze. He leaves them ablaze, some combusted by his righteous anger alone. I'm an antibody counteracting the effects of man on the earth. Saving it is a surgical operation. We cannot let the cancer thrive. He leaves a wall of flame on both sides of the street as he walks. This is the world being judged by fire. Purifying fire is how balance, peace and harmony will be returned to the natural order. And then his dreams will once again be what they should be. But we're suffering a slow death from all directions. It's an itch of stupidity I need to scratch. In this wasteland of catastrophic consumerism, we must do what's right for the world. So, to save it, we'll deconstruct society, explosively if necessary, for freedom. Jimbo turns to admire his social surgery. The shops down the high street are in flames, scintillating with cracking, splitting glass. I'm lighting a message to the world. Burn down Babylon. The message is lit in red neon before him. It's strange that the way to peace must be via destruction, isn't it? But sometimes we have to rebuild our world from the foundations up. And sometimes we have to kill just to survive. We'll make peace when it's time for peace. To know that he's finally achieving something is such a relief to Jimbo that he finds he's flying high again, high above the blazing town which before had held him down, constricted him, was slowly killing him and its other inhabitants with its poisons. The air has once again become fresh, luminous, clear, empty. On the edge of sight, at the far side of this sterile wasteland necropolis of dreams, you can clearly see at the edge of this battlefield of economics the mottled bright colours showing flowers spreading, conquering the obsidian hard ground in a patchwork. He sees grass and trees growing, spreading inwards, slowly encroaching upon the dead soil of the landscape. He desires only the living world, not the noxious veneer of a man-created hell of a world. What? He thinks, surprised. Where did that word come from? Noxious. Necropolis, obsidian, what do they mean? Curious. Now Jimbo's standing alone in a forest at night. The air smells clean, although human pollution might take centuries to fully clear. However, on nature's timescale, that's a mere breath. Having satisfied himself that his efforts are bearing fruit, Jimbo flies up, back through the mountain, to look for others who will help him to pursue his vision of a good world. There must be some well-meaning people somewhere he can recruit to the rescue mission. Behind one-way glass, two people stand watching 2 Delta watch TV, as Frank the technician sits in the middle of the observation lab like a spider on a fibre optic web, letting his eyes casually wander across the bank of screens before him, including a recording of Jimbo watching TV on TV. Very meta, he thinks to himself. One of the screens has an unattractively angled close-up of 2 Delta's face. Of the remaining screens, one displays undulating graphs relating to Delta's brainwave patterns, heart rate, and skin perspiration level, among other bioinfo. Another frames a window in which short but strong ecological messages are being gently scrolled through automatically, the words being spoken to Jimbo as he sleeps. The lab lights are dimmed so that the observers can watch the sleeping body through the glass. The doctor, as identified by her long white lab coat and a clipboard, moves back to stand by the glass and talk again in muted tones with the tall, thin man. They occasionally glance through the glass at the object of their conversation. Dr. Saunders says, "That's a good result, Mr. Troy. We're hitting the deepest memory circuits. The areas in yellow, see? I told you the drug would loosen up his worldview. Get the program to move faster," Troy replies. Watch the morning interview. I'm sure you'll be glad about what we've got him dreaming now. He's reached a profound ecological repentance. Activation is imminent, I'm sure. I'm certain he already thinks he desperately wants the downfall of the consumerist economy by all means necessary. Troy replies. "We like to call it instigating a necessary turnaround in social attitude, Dr. Saunders." "Call it what you wish," she responds, "but we're hitting his brain with the heaviest package we've produced, and it's sticking fast." "Jolly good. Keep the drug element secret from Jones, though, can you? He doesn't approve," which elicits a shrewd squint from Dr. Saunders. She evaluates the presentation of 2 Delta's brain activity, then looks down at him again through the one-way mirror, just as the corners of his mouth turn up into a lingering, faraway grin. 2 Deltas sleeping peacefully, no outward signs of unusual experience. Dr. Saunders thinks, he looks so boyish when he's asleep and smiling. Then she's discomforted by the thought that when 2 Delta wakes up, he'll describe to her vividly violent scenes of frightening intensity. But 2 Delta won't be frightened by his dream, although it could plausibly be described as a nightmare. Instead, 2 Delta, as Jimbo hates being called, she knows, will predictably relate how he feels refreshed by his experiences and his fading memory of them, and that he's filled once again with an urgent, albeit somewhat vague, sense of purpose. He'll say he knows something global is bubbling up, but he can't quite put his finger on it. "The equipment's working perfectly now," Dr. Saunders nods. "It won't be long before you can put him on the training program."